Hello and welcome to my first video for clinical neuromuscular intervention on action potentials. So for this assignment we were tasked with coming up with a diagram and video being able to explain how our body is able to sense a pain stimulus such as a sharp object, a pencil, poking somebody in the arm. But before we dive into that, we need to understand what all of our nerve cells and all of our sensory cells and why they're electrically charged and why they have resting membrane potential. So if this is our cell right here, a cell in your body, our cells are full of ions, and these ions are positively and negatively charged. Within the cell, our cells are vastly negative, meaning they have a negative, specifically negative 70 millivolt resting membrane potential, because vastly they're made up of anions, which are negatively charged proteins. But within the cell you also have a small amount of sodium, some potassium, and then some chlorine as well. And then outside of the cell you have ions such as sodium and chlorine, but the vast majority of the ions outside of the cell are going to be sodium, which are positively charged. So with that, we can now jump into how an action potential, or how signals are sent from a stimulus to our spinal cord and to our body. And so with step one, we have a stimulation where the sharp object actually pokes us. And with this stimulation, it activates the nociceptor, which are free nerve endings that are on the edge of our skin or in the dermis of the skin. And these nociceptors sense pain in our bodies, and they are an afferent pathway, meaning they are sensory. From here, with the activation of the nociceptors, we're going to get an influx of sodium into the cell, into the axon more specifically. And with the influx of sodium, you're going to change the resting membrane potential of this nociceptor and make it more positive. With it becoming more positive and crossing threshold of minus 55, which just means that once you get past this threshold of minus 55, that means that there's going to be an action potential happening, which is just a signal being sent, a way of communication within our body to other nerves and ultimately to our brain, so they can be processed and told that we are being poked by a painful stimuli. So with the influx of sodium, we get an action potential, and this action potential is sent via graded potential, and this graded potential is able to be sent and processed along the entire length of the axon because they are coated in myelin sheath. These myelin sheath help insulate the axon and help propagate this signal, the signal of the action potential being sent down the axon into eventually other nerves and other cells, and then to the spinal cord and brain. But for the purpose of this video, we are just talking about what an action potential is, and the process of sending it to the spinal cord and to the brain will be explained in other videos. So in summary, all cells have a resting membrane potential. They are electrically charged. When prompted with a stimulus via the nociceptor is prompted by a stimulus by a sharp object, this resting membrane potential is changed with the influx of sodium, which then activates an action potential, or a way of communication, a signal to be sent down our axon to other nerves and to be communicated with the rest of our body that we have just been poked by a painful stimuli. And this is propagated or made easier by myelin sheath. If our axons or nerve cells were not coated in these myelin sheath, this action potential would not be able to be sent down the axon into other neurons. Thank you for watching. Sorry for the shakiness.